Hello, hello.
Welcome everyone. We're going to let everyone come into the room first. 24 Days of Merrymaking with Michaels.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Hope everyone's having a good start to their week. It's almost the big day, so it's exciting. Everyone, we're just going to let, when it slows down a little bit, I'll do some introductions. We're making tassel trees today. It's very exciting.
Just get a sample up here.
Cute. More joining the room right now. Welcome everyone again to 24 Days of Merrymaking with Studio Jane, Tessa from Studio Jane. Whoever just asked a question, class starts at what time? Right now. You are here on time.
Yes.
Awesome, everyone. I think we're all joining. All right. Thanks everyone for joining. My name is Lori from Kid Made Modern. We are super excited to partner with Michaels for another class and our dear friend Tessa from Studio Jane. Some of you may have joined us the last couple weeks. She can be found on Instagram at Shop Studio Jane. She's a master crafter, so we're very excited. Just a heads up as well for everyone. You can ask questions in the Q&A, and I will be moderating the session today. So I'll be getting back to you and asking Tessa some questions from the Q&A. But we're looking forward to crafting. All right, Tessa, I think we are about ready to get started. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. Yes, my name is Tessa, as Lori said. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to craft with you guys again today. Today, we are going to be making these adorable little tassel trees. So we are going to create little frames and even create a little way to hang them. So these are adorable things you can either set on a mantle or a shelf, a bookcase, or you can hang them on a wall. They'll make great gifts. So if you haven't made something for a parent or a grandma or grandpa, these are going to be something that they will love. And you can make them in any color that you want. So we're going to go through the whole supply list real quick for you. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need is some cardboard. So I'm just using some scrap pieces of cardboard. We're going to cut this down to create the frame. And you can make yours whatever size you want. So if you don't have a lot of cardboard or you have a smaller piece of paper you want to use as your frame instead, that'll be fine as well. So we're going to cut this down. So again, I just found some old shipping boxes and I tore a piece off, and that's what we're going to use. You're going to need a ruler. We're just going to use a ruler and a pen or pencil, a crayon to make some marks in order to measure our frame out. You can also, if you don't have a ruler handy, you can use another piece of cardboard or the edge of a book, something that will give you a straight line to create, to draw a line against, and that way you'll get a straight edge when we cut it out. We're going to be using yarn. So I've got a whole bunch of yarn. Any colors you want to use is fine. We're going to be doing a little rainbow. So I'm going to walk you through the steps of how to make tassels, but you can make the tassels in any color you want. If you don't have yarn, you can also use string or rope, even cut pieces of fabric will work. Any of those will be fine to make tassels with. And then we are also going to be using some paint. So whatever colors you want to do is fine. I'm using some Kid Made Modern paint here. Any paint is fine to use. This is just going to be to paint our frames. If you don't want to paint yours or you want to use colored paper instead of cardboard, you can do that as well. And then you're also going to need some glue. So I'm going to be using hot glue today. If you are crafting with a parent or if you are an advanced crafter and you feel comfortable with a hot glue gun and your parent or guardian has said that's fine, then great. If not, then you can also use just a white craft glue. That'll work as well. Or you can use glue dots, or double-sided tape should also work to hold down the tassels. And then lastly, if you want to decorate your tree. So that's all the supplies you're really going to need in order to make the basics. of the tree. But if you want to add a little star at the top, or if you want to decorate it like this one where we added some little ornaments, then any pom-poms or sequins, beads, some little fuzzy sticks, pipe cleaners, all of those will work. So that's basically everything you're going to need today. Oh, some scissors and a paintbrush. So those are going to be the basic tools that we're going to need in order to create these fun little pieces of artwork. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and flip my camera around here so you guys can see what I'm doing, and we'll get started. Okay, so what we're going to do first is create the actual frame. Since we're painting ours, I always recommend to start with anything that's going to take a while to dry first. So we are going to cut some strips to make a frame and a backing. So the first thing you're going to need to do is take your cardboard, and I'm going to use this straighter edge of my cardboard, and I'm going to make 1-inch strips for my frame first. So I'm going to take my ruler and measure 1 inch from the side and make a mark. And then I'm going to go down the side of my cardboard a little bit further down and measure 1 inch again. So you can see there, I just have a couple little marks on my cardboard here. Again, you can do this on a piece of paper or construction paper if you don't want to use cardboard or you don't have cardboard at home. And then I'm going to take my ruler or my straight edge here, and I'm going to just go ahead and line up against those 2 marks.
So somebody asked if they could use felt instead of cardboard as well, and I think that that totally would work, correct?
Yeah, felt's a great idea to use. You can definitely do the same thing. So if you have felt, which I even have some little strips here, you could easily cut these little strips down, or if you have large pieces of felt, you could measure those into 1-inch strips as well to make a little frame.
Okay, and then you said too, the measurement that you're doing right now, that's a 1 inch?
I'm doing a 1-inch strip, and we're going to make our whole frame. So we're going to do this larger size one here. That's about an 8.5 by 11. So this is about the same size as a piece of paper you'd put in your printer or construction paper you probably have. So you can easily use just a single 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and to glue everything on, or you can cut out an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardboard, which we're going to do right now. And then these 1-inch strips will be cut down to size to fit onto that. Okay, so now that I've drawn a line here against my cardboard, that is 1 inch, I'm going to do that same thing right next to it. So from my line I just drew, I'm going to hold my 1 inch there, and I'm going to put another little mark here so that you can see that's a 1-inch strip, and then we're basically just making a second 1-inch strip to cut out. And then again, I'm going to take my ruler and line up those 2 marks I made. And by making 2 marks, what you do is make sure that you are getting the same measurement all the way across. If you only measure it once, your ruler might not be perfectly even, and then your line isn't going to be even all the way down. All right, so then you can see I just have drawn 2 long lines here. And if you're using, again, any marker, anything you have to make a mark will work. If you misdraw your lines or you want to start over, don't worry about that at all. We're going to be painting this, or if you don't want to paint it, you can always flip your cardboard over at the end and you won't have any marks on it. So don't worry about messing up. Okay, so next we're just going to go ahead and cut these out. So I'm going to take my scissors, and along my line, I'm just going to cut this out. And cardboard sometimes can be really thick to cut through. You can also do this with an X-Acto blade if you're crafting with an adult, or again, you're a little more advanced crafter if you feel comfortable doing that. But X-Acto blades can be very sharp, so I definitely recommend going with scissors.
For those that are just wanting to catch up and that need a little bit more time, no worries at all. All we've done so far is just mark 1-inch strips. She made 2 different 1-inch strips that she's cutting out right now on cardboard.
Yeah, so we're just making the basic pieces to create our frame for the artwork we're making today. You can also cut out 1-inch strips of paper, either on a paper cutter or just draw your lines and measure out 1-inch strips on a piece of paper if you don't have cardboard. Or if cardboard is a little bit hard for you to cut out, the paper will work as well. Okay, so now you can see I have these long strips that I've cut out. And if you feel like your edges are a little bit wrinkled or frayed, you can go back around and trim those up a little bit. And then again, we're gonna be able to easily flip these over and it won't be so obvious of where your wrinkled marks are. Okay, so these guys, now that I have my strips, we're gonna cut those down to size for our actual artwork. So again, we're gonna take our ruler again, and I'm going to cut them down to 8.5 inches. So I just took my ruler from the edge of one strip here. You can see I take my ruler, one edge of the strip, and I measure to 8.5. And again, you don't have to make yours this size. You can make it any size you want. So if you want to make a much smaller piece of artwork, if you only want to make a few tassels today, then you can definitely measure it smaller. Just like this one here. This little one is only 6 inches by 6 inches. So you would just cut 6-inch strips to make it much smaller. Okay, so I have that. I'm just going to go ahead and cut right through where my mark is at 8.5. So now I've got one side there. We're going to do the same thing with the remaining piece. Measure again at 8.5. And then I'm going to just cut right through. So now I have 2 end pieces there. And now we're going to cut this down to 11. And we might need to cut another strip out, but we'll see here. So again, I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to measure 11 inches and make a mark. And right where your mark is, I'm just going to cut right through. So then you can see I need to cut one more strip out. So we're going to do that right now. And we're just going to measure a 1-inch strip again here. So again, if you're just joining us and you haven't seen this step yet, we are making the frames for our artwork today. So I'm cutting 1-inch strips out to make the frame. So I'm going to go ahead and measure 1 inch in 2 different places on my paper or my cardboard, and then draw a line all the way down against my ruler. You can also use, you can definitely eyeball this as well if you don't have a ruler or you're not comfortable with measurements and you're not sure what an inch should be. Don't worry about that. Just go ahead and cut out some strips that are all the same width and that are 8.5 inches. We're gonna need 2 that are 8.5 inches and 2 that are 11 inches. All right, so I just cut through most of this and then I'm going to measure my 11-inch mark again. And instead of cutting all the way through this cardboard, since I don't need the strip quite that long, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it right there. So now I have a 1-inch by 11-inch strip of cardboard. Okay, so these are going to be our frame pieces. So we're just going to set these aside real quick now. And we're going to measure out the backing for our artwork. So we're going to use our ruler again. As we talked about, we're cutting 8.5 by 11 inches or whatever size you want to make today. So I'm going to go ahead and measure from one side here. I'm going to measure to the 8.5 mark. And then I'm going to bring my ruler down about 6 inches and measure again to the 8.5 mark. And then I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to take my ruler, line up straight so that my ruler edge is meeting both of those marks, and then draw a line down. And then I'm just going to take my ruler, line it up against that mark, and continue my line all the way down. So now I have this long line all the way across. And now to get the length of it from the top of my cardboard, I'm going to measure 11 inches. And measure 11 right here. And then again, bring my ruler down a few inches and measure 11 again. So I have my 2 marks, line my ruler up, and now I've created a perfect box here. You can also trace a piece of paper if you have a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, or again, any size you want to create a box, or you can just go ahead and cut out any shape you want your frame to be.
Tessa, do you mind repeating that step just for everyone? If you were just making your frame still, this is just the backing of the frame.
Yeah, so again, here's our sample. We just cut out our 1-inch strips, and now we're making the backing. So this is just a sheet of cardboard that then we're going to layer our strips on top. So you can kind of see that there's an indentation here that the frame sits on top of the cardboard. And that way you get more of a 3D effect like a real picture frame. So what we're cutting out now is this background behind. We just painted it white in the sample here. So we're going to paint them next as soon as we're done cutting out. But yeah, I'll go through the steps one more time here. So I'm going to flip over this cardboard here to give you guys an idea so you can see clean surface. So what I'm going to do is take my ruler, and using the 1-inch side of my ruler, I'm going to measure from one side of my cardboard or my paper. I'm going to measure 8.5 inches, and I'm going to make a mark here. And then I'm going to bring my ruler down just a few inches and make another mark at 8.5. And then I'm going to use my ruler and line it up against both of my little lines here, the marks I just made. I'm going to rotate my rule over so that the straight edge is lined up with those, and make a mark going down. So this just helps you create a perfect line all the way down. Again, if you don't have a ruler, you just want to use a straight edge or make whatever shape you want. If you, again, don't have a ruler, you can do this step first, and then you can cut your strips and just hold it up against this and hold it in place and cut it where you want it to be. So if you don't want to measure it out, that's okay. Okay, so now I have one length going down, and then I'm going to, from the top of my cardboard, take my ruler and do the same thing and measure down to, hang on here, take my ruler and measure down to 11 inches. And then do it again a little bit further down. And then line up my marks with my ruler and create a line. So by doing that, you just create 2 lines that create one big rectangle. And then we're going to go ahead and cut that out. So we're just going to take our scissors and cut along the lines we just drew. You can always trace a book or something else as well. So if you want to make a different size or a different shape, you can definitely do that. Instead of measuring it out, you can use something to trace. And again, I'm just taking my scissors and cutting along my line here. And cardboard can be really thick. It can be a little hard to cut out. So just take your time to create your frame here. It'll just take a couple of minutes to cut it all out.
As you're cutting, remind me again what the dimensions were of that backing?
Yeah, so the one I'm making today is 8.5 by 11 inches.
Okay.
So this is an 8.5 by 11 inch rectangle we just cut out. It's going to be the same size as a piece of printer paper or anything like that. You could also use to trace it out. But you can make yours any size you want. So you can see the one we're making today is 8.5 by 11, but here's a smaller one that we made before that's a 6-inch by 6-inch one. So you can really make any size you want. So once you cut out your backing, then we have our strips that we cut out that are, you're going to need 2 that are 11 inches by 1 inch and 2 that are 8.5 by 1 inch. So now you can kind of see all those pieces coming together to make a little frame. Okay, so now we have all these pieces. I'm just going to clean up my edges on some of these real quick so that they are nice and straight before we paint them. That way they are ready to go.
Also, everyone, we will have this recorded on Michael's. It'll be posted in 24 hours. So if you're missing a step right now, or you just need to rewatch, we only have a certain amount of time to go through this craft today. So if you want to rewatch it, you can go to Michael's. We'll post it in the chat today so that you can, what link you'll be able to find that at.
Yes, definitely. And even these steps, if you want to make a picture frame later for Mother's Day or Valentine's Day, sometimes you can go back to some of these steps you're learning today and really be able to create multiple pieces of artwork in all different styles later. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and paint. So I'm taking my leftover cardboard and placing that down first. You might have a tablecloth or a craft station, but make sure that you cover up your table so you don't get paint on that. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of paint here and squirt that on to my scratch cardboard. And then with the paintbrush, we're just going to go ahead and paint. So I decided today I want the back of mine to be green. Again, you can use any color paint you have. I used white in the sample one that you saw, but I just wanted to show you guys a couple different color options that you can do any colors you want. So maybe you're making this as a gift and you know that your mom or your grandma's favorite color is purple and you want to do purple background, that's great. Or any color you might love. If you want to hang this in your room, then you can do it to match that.
And if they're not wanting to paint, or if maybe they don't have any paint, you can totally put this on a plain backdrop as well. If you have just a different color piece of paper to use, that's great. Or if you just want to do it on cardboard, it looks awesome just as like a natural craft as well.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a great point, Lori. You don't have to paint it if you don't want to, or you don't have paint today, then you can definitely just leave it blank. You can also trace the cardboard sheets you just made onto, and your strips onto paper, and then cut those out and glue that on top. Or you can cover it in felt or fabric, or you could leave the background cardboard and just paint or cover your strips for your frame. You can even color in your frame with colored pencils or crayons, maybe draw a pattern on those. So you can really feel free to make it your own. So we're just doing a quick layer. We're going to come back and do a second layer on this as soon as we paint our strips. Okay, so we've got one layer on our background. And now we're going to paint our strips, and I'm going to use a different color paint for our strips so that they have a different contrasting color. So I'm going to use this pretty teal color today. And we're just going to paint our strips. Again, if you don't have paint or you don't want to paint, you don't have to. You can cover them in paper or fabric, or you can just leave them plain cardboard, or maybe you cut your strips out of paper instead of cardboard, then yours will already be a pretty color that you picked instead. And these are just some fun colors that I thought to use today, but any colors you want to use is fine. And we have 4 strips in total, so I'm just painting them all the same color.
We have lots of people that are very excited about the tassel trees, which is amazing. This is just a great way to display the tassel trees. So we're just here to give you a few ideas. A few of you have some questions on tassel trees we will get to once we get to that step.
Yes, so the tassels themselves, the tassel tree, they aren't freestanding. So these are going to be glued onto something. So you need either a piece of paper or a piece of cardboard. And we just wanted to make a frame to make it feel like it's a little bit of a gift, or that you can hang it on your wall and keep it for many holidays to come. But if you just want to glue your tassels onto a piece of paper, you don't have to make the frame at all. And we are going to get to making tassels very shortly. And I'm so excited that you guys are excited to make them with me. So I love making tassels, and I make them for parties and little garlands out of them. So after today, you will learn how to make a tassel and be able to make them for all different things. They're cute ornaments, just the tassels by themselves. So I'm excited to show you how to do that. All right. Okay, so now I have my strips all painted. I'm going to go back to my background real quickly here to do a quick extra layer of paint. Again, don't feel like you need to paint yours if you don't want to. Just squirting some paint right on top of my cardboard here. And then pushing that around. And again, I just used this green and teal colors that I thought were fun and bright, but you can use any colors you want. Okay. So now once we have all that, we are going to, if you painted your frame, then you can go ahead and set that aside for now. So I'm going to set this aside for it can dry while we make our tassels. All right. So now, next step, we just made all the pieces to assemble our frame, and we are going to let that dry while we make the tassels. So what you need is about 3-inch piece of cardboard or chipboard. So I have a 3-inch wide. The width of this does not matter. It just matters how many tassels you can put across it, but we're going to pull the tassels off of this, and then you can keep reusing the same little piece. So I have it's 3 inches wide, or 3 inches tall, and then it's about 6 inches wide, but you can use any length you have or want. Again, this is just a little piece of chipboard I'm using, any piece of cardboard. You just need something thick enough so that as we wrap the yarn around it, that it does not bend, so that all your tassels are about the same size. If you don't have a piece of cardboard, you can definitely use a wider ruler or a piece of a box or a book. You can even use the edge of a fork if you want to make smaller tassels. So you can really use anything that you can wrap the yarn around and then slide it off. So I'm going to show you right now how to make a tassel, and then we're going to make quite a few of them. If you guys have questions as we go, definitely let us know, and we're going to make quite a few tassels right now. So we're going to go through the steps multiple times.
If you guys are still painting, I would pause and we'll do the tassels together and you can go back to painting.
Perfect. Okay, so I have my yarn. I'm going to start with this green yarn, my cardboard, and a pair of scissors. And I'm going to take one tail of my yarn. I'm going to put it on top of my cardboard here and hold it with my other hand. And then I'm going to wrap it around the cardboard. And I like to count how many times I wrap it around so that all my tassels are the same size, but you don't have to do that. You can make yours all different sizes and lengths and widths. That's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it around 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 times. And I'm going to take my cardboard, flip it around so that now my other end is ending at the same place. And I'm going to cut my tail. Now I'm just going to tuck that tail underneath so that it stays tight. So now both of my tails from where I started are on the same end. And now we're going to take another little piece of yarn. So we're going to cut off a couple inches here and the opposite side. So if our tails are down here, we're going to take our yarn, go underneath the yarn we just wrapped, and bring that new piece up to the top and tie a knot.
So if someone has like furry yarn, not the normal kind, any sort of yarn will work on this, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can use any yarn. You can even use strips of fabric will work as well, string or rope. So yeah, if it's really fuzzy, you're just going to end up with a thicker, fuzzy tassel, but I think that would be really cute. Okay, so now we have our little tied piece up here, and we're still on our cardboard. Our tails are at the bottom, and we're going to go ahead and slide this off. So now we have this little loop of yarn that we are going to cut the bottom. So if we're holding the top where we tied, we're going to cut the bottom. And now we've created these two separate pieces that are tied at the top. And so where our knot is going to go underneath. So we're going to take these two pieces and flip them around to cover up the knot we made. And then you can see where you took your yarn underneath, you have a little string at the top that's holding it all together. And this is starting to look like a tassel. But now we're going to take another piece of string. I'm going to take a longer piece of yarn here, about 10 inches or so, just a good little chunk here. You can use the same color or a different color. This is what we're going to tie around the middle to make a little like neck around it. So I like to do a knot that you can't see. You can also just easily take a piece of string and tie a knot like this, and just one time, and that right away makes a tassel. You would just double knot that. But I'm going to show you real quick how to make a tassel, or how to make a little neck that you can't see the knot. So I'm going to take a loop, make a loop here with my end. So I have my little tail of my yarn. I'm going to make a loop, and then I'm going to hold my loop against the top of my tassel. So if my head of my tassel's here, the loop is at the bottom, and I'm going to hold that all together, and I'm going to wrap around with leaving this little tail out. Hang on, I'm going to use a different color yarn so you guys can see this a little bit easier.
And everyone, we will be repeating this. Don't worry. If you're not getting this the first time, we have lots of tassels to make. So just hold tight, and we'll repeat this all over again.
Okay, so we have our little tassel here. We're going to take a piece of yarn and make a loop. So we have a loop, a tail, and a long tail here. So we're going to hold these two together, take the loop, put it against the bottom, and then the two tails toward the top. And now I'm going to take my long tail, leaving my little tail out, and wrap it around. And then we're just going to wrap that around a couple times. So you can see now my long tail is wrapping around to create a little neck, while this loop is still hanging out the bottom and my little tail is at the top. Wrap around a couple of times. And now I'm going to take my long tail and put it through the loop and pull the little tail at the top. And by doing that, that's going to pull your loop up and cinch a knot underneath your neck. And now you can go ahead and cut these little pieces off. And you've made a little tassel. So I'm going to trim these little bits at the bottom to make it all even. And we've got a little tassel here.
Super cute. Tessa, the next one we do, can we create the one with the others where the knot shows? That might be just a little bit easier for the kids, I'm thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to make another tassel here. And we're going to take our yarn and our cardboard, hold your tail at the top of your cardboard, and then we're going to loop it around 10 times. We've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So once you get to the bottom, you're going to flip your cardboard over and cut your yarn on the other end so that both of your tails are on the same side. And we're just going to tuck that under. Now we're going to take a piece of yarn, just a couple inches. We're going to slide that underneath the yarn we just wrapped and bring it up to the top of our cardboard. So you have your tails at the bottom, and we're going to pull this piece up to the top and tie a knot. So just loop that together. And then one more time.
Tessa, can you just repeat those steps again as far as what you just did? So you wrapped it around, first step.
Yeah, so we wrap it around 10 times. Let's make one more here. So we're going to take our yarn and we have a little tail of our yarn. We're going to put it on top of our cardboard and hold that in place and then wrap our yarn around. And
slow if you don't mind.
Yeah. So we're gonna hold our little tail at the top of our cardboard, and then you're just going to wrap it around. So you can see I just made a loop all the way around my cardboard and just wrapped it around. And you can wrap it around as many times as you want. It's just going to make your tassel thicker or thinner. So we're gonna wrap it around a few more times here. So you can see now I have it's on both sides of my cardboard because I'm just taking my yarn and going under and over, under, around, and over. And then when you're ready to cut it off, since you held your tail at the top here, you're gonna flip your cardboard over and then cut your yarn on the same side so that both of your tails end in the same place. And I'm just going to tuck that underneath for the moment so that it stays tight on there. So now you can see we just have this little chunk of yarn that's been wrapped around our cardboard. And now we'll take a different color so you can see this easier. I'm going to take a separate piece of yarn now that I've cut off, and I'm going to put it underneath the yarn that I just wrapped. So now you have, it's on both sides, but we're just going to take this underneath one side and pull it to the top. So now you can see we have our tails down here, we're wrapped around our cardboard, and now we have this piece of string at the top, and we're going to tie a knot. So I'm just going to, just a normal knot you use to tie your shoes, anything like that, we're just going to cross our two strings over, tie a knot, and then do that again. So one string over the other, make a little loop, pull one in through, and pull tight.
The two knots that you're doing on the top, correct?
Yep, so we just made a double knot at the top. So tie two knots at the top, that's gonna hold it tight. So now we've got these little tails at the top, and then we're gonna go ahead and pull our yarn off. So now basically you have this little loop of yarn, and we're going to cut the bottom of it. So I'm holding the top where I made the knot. I'm gonna take my scissors through the loop and cut right through. So now I have where I tied a knot, I have these two separate pieces that are all held together by my knot. And then I'm just going to flip it over so that my knot is now inside. And so you have all your yarn together. And now we're just going to do a simple little necktie around it and show you how to do that. So we're going to take our little yarn here that we just cut apart. I'm going to take a small piece of yarn and set him on top of it. And then I'm just going to double knot it again. So this is a simple knot that you can do. So we're just going to pull that tight and double knot it again. So the same style knot that you did at the top, we're going to do around the neck of it to make a little, and then we're just going to cut the little edges off of that. And so then there you go. You have a little tie around the top and a little tassel. So we're going to do this one more time. We're going to make quite a few of these real quickly here to show you. So we'll do this again, and thinking that we should go with we'll make quite a few with this simpler knot. So you guys can see those steps again. So let's make a couple more here. So we're going to take our yarn, our tail, hold it at the top of our cardboard with our other finger, and then you're going to go under and over. Under and over, and just keep wrapping that around your piece of cardboard. And again, the thicker you make it, that's just going to make your tassel a little bit thicker. The thinner you make it, you're just going to have a thinner tassel, so you can do it either way. And we're just going to wrap it around a few more times. Okay, and then once you're ready to cut yours, you're just going to flip your cardboard over and then cut at the bottom where your other end was. And we're going to tuck that underneath. And then we're going to take a piece of yarn. We're going to slide it underneath. So we have all of our yarn on our cardboard, just going to pull it underneath and pull that to the top and tie a knot. So we're going to take our two ends here, one overlapping the other, and then take one tail through the loop and pull it tight. And do the exact same thing to make a double knot. So one string over the other, make a loop, pull it underneath and through. And then we're going to slide that off. And so you've got your little top here that you just created, and we're going to cut at the bottom and then flip it over so that your knot is now inside. And then we're going to take another little piece of string here, and lay your tassel on top, and then make another double knot just a little bit further in from the top. So we're going to make one knot there and then just double knot that again. So we're just going to do a same knot as we did at the top, where you overlap your two pieces, make a loop, and then pull it through. And then I'm just going to cut off my ends here. And then at the bottom of my tassel, I'm just going to cut all these little pieces off to make it even.
About how many tassels will we need for our tree? Kind of depends on the size of our tree, correct?
It does, yeah, depending on how large you want your tree to be. For this one here, we have, let's see here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We've used 15 trees or 15 tassels to make this one here. But for a smaller one, if you wanted to make, then this one only needed 6 tassels. So definitely depends on how big you want yours to be. If you want to overlap them, or if you want to spread them apart when you glue them down, then you can do it either way. And in this one, we made all of our tassels the same color, but this one did a little rainbow effect. I also think you can do all different colors on along through the whole thing. Either way is fine. Okay, so we made a few green tassels here. Let's finish this one up here. So this one is going to go ahead and take off my cardboard, cut the bottom.
Show that one with the very pretty tassel, with the very pretty way that you did it, the unknotted.
Yeah, of course, with a thicker neck on it. Yeah, let's do that again. Okay, so this one we just wrapped it around. We just slid it off of our cardboard, and going to flip it over. And then let's use a different color here. Pull some pink into the mix here. So you can see, you can use a different color on each of to make your little necks on them like we did here, or you can do them all the same like this here. So it just depends on what you like to do. Any way is fine. I think they're both fun to have different options throughout. Okay, so now we have our little tassel here. So we're going to take a larger piece of yarn. We've got 2 ends on it since we cut it down to just be about a few inches long. And we're going to make a loop on one end. So I've just curled my tail up to make a little loop at the bottom. And now I'm going to make sure that I hold this little tail out. I'm going to lay this on top of my tassel. So the loop is at the bottom where your fringe is, and your tails are both at the top where you just made a knot. And then we're going to hold all that together in one hand. Again, hold your little tail, make sure that's sticking up. We're going to take our longer tail and wrap it around all the pieces. So even the little loop, but leaving that little tail out. So now you can see I've wrapped it around one time, and we're just going to wrap it around a couple more times here. So now we have our little tail still sitting out. We've got our loop at the bottom and our long tail here. We're going to take our tail, the long tail, and push it through our loop. Pull that all the way. And now hold that. So you got your loop here, your long tail through the loop. And you're going to take your little tail and pull that tight. So you can see as I pull the little tail, that makes my loop shrink. And you'll pull it up. It'll go underneath the other yarn you just wrapped around and hide your knot. So then you're just going to cut off this remaining bit of yarn. So this is a simple knot you can use in a lot of different ways besides just making a tassel. So it's always fun to know some of those different techniques. And then we're just going to trim the bottom of our tassel here. So we're going to do that again. Let's make a couple different colors here for you guys to see. So we'll take our pink yarn. And again, I'm going to hold my tail of my yarn at the top of my cardboard, and then I'm going to wrap it around a few times. So just go under and around. So as you do this, you can wrap it around as many times as you want. So if you don't wrap it around too many times, you're just going to have a little skinnier tassel, or if you wrap it around a lot, you might have a much bigger tassel. And just so you guys see, like, these are some big tassels that I've made to show you that you can make them any size you want. So if you want to make really big sizes, you just need a bigger piece of cardboard. You can make them out of different materials and any size. So I think that you can really play with that as well. Okay, so once you wrap it around, I'm just going to flip the cardboard over, and then you're going to cut at the bottom. I'm going to tuck that in underneath, and then we're just going to take different color here. I'm going to take another little piece of yarn, go underneath our the yarn we just wrapped, and pull that to the top, and then we're going to make a knot. So cross your two tails over, make a loop, and pull one side under and through. So cross your two sides over, and then go through your loop and pull tight. And then we're just going to pull that off your cardboard, holding the knot. We now have a little circle of yarn. We're going to cut the bottom and then flip that over. So once you flip it over, the knot you just made is hidden inside. You can see that's how you have a different little color at the top here, where we just went ahead and made our little knot. And then we're going to show you again how to make a hidden knot. So we're going to put our tassel here, take our loop. So we have a whole piece of string here. We've got one tail, make a little loop and lay that on top. And then from there, we're going to take this and wrap it around. So we're going to leave our small tail out and wrap around the neck. We've got our loop at the bottom, the little tail at the top, and with our long tail, we're wrapping around the tassel. So once you wrap around a couple of times, we're going to take our long tail and push it through the loop, and then take our little tail and pull that tight. And you'll see that loop disappear, and pull it up just a little bit so that the knot is now disappeared into the little neck.
So people are asking how many tassels for each layer of tree once they get started, if they're doing a smaller tree, or even the size that you're doing right now. The 8.5 by 11, how many tassels did you have on each level?
So each level is it basically decreases as you go up. So you're gonna have like 5 at the bottom, and then 4, and then this is 2 layers of 3, a layer of 2, and then 1 tassel at the top. So every layer you're going to decrease a little bit. And I like to start at the bottom so that way your tassels overlap each other. So we're gonna make, so we've made quite a few tassels here, and this might take you guys a few more minutes to make some tassels, but for sake of our time here today together, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to assemble your frame as well. And like Lori had said, we will have all this posted in 24 hours, so you can go back and watch all the steps of making a tassel again. So if you do feel like you still need some help making those, you can definitely watch it again after the fact. Okay, so now that we went through the steps of making some tassels here, we are going to assemble our frame. So taking our frame that we painted earlier, if you didn't make a frame and you're just going to glue your tassels onto your piece of paper, then you can just keep on making some tassels while we go through these steps. So we're going to take all of our pieces of cardboard that we painted here. If yours is still wet, then you can wait a little bit longer to put it all together. So I'm going to take my hot glue gun here, and I'm going to just put a little bit of glue on either end of my strip. Again, you can also use craft glue or glue dots here. I'm going to take my long strip and put it against my edge of my backing and just press that down. And now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So again, we're starting with our long strips first. Putting a little bit of glue on either side, or put a glue dot on either corner. And then just go ahead and put that down onto one side. And now we'll do the same thing with our tops. So put a little bit of glue on either side of our frame here. And then we're just going to overlap onto the other pieces. So again, if you are making your frame out of paper instead of cardboard, you'll do the same thing. So either materials you're using, or fabric or felt, any of those will work. We're just going to glue it all together now so you can see we have a little frame ready to go. Okay, so now to attach our tassels, we're going to line some up here. And I think we'll just do a few different colors all together that are fun. You can use any colors you want. If you want to make yours more spread out, you can. So I'm going to take a little bit of glue on the back of one tassel. And again, you can use craft glue or a glue dot. And I'm just going to lay that tassel straight onto my cardboard. And lay that on. So if you made yours all different colors, or if you have different little colors around their necks, any of those I think are fun. So you can really mix and match, or you can do them all the same color if you want. So we've got 4. We're going to do one more tassel at the bottom here. And I'm just putting a little bit of glue on the back and then laying that glued side of the tassel straight onto my cardboard. So that's our first layer of tassels. But then as we add our tassels to it, we're going to take our tassel and line it up so that the tail is in between the tops of the layer below it. So again, you're just going to want to subtract one tassel every tier you go. So that way it gets skinnier and skinnier toward the top to make it look like a tree. And so you can see already on here, as we're going up, it's getting narrower as we go. Do the same thing the next row here. Got 3.
Tessa is gluing. If you crafted with us today, totally take your time making. This might take a little bit longer, but I think you guys got the basis of what to do. But we would love to see your finished product. So if you want to post and hashtag, there's a few hashtags you can use. One is Make It With Michaels. The other one is Michaels Classes. And our third one from Kid Made Modern is hashtag Go Make Stuff.
Yes, definitely. We'd love to see all of what you guys make. I think it's so fun to see which colors you pick.
I'm gonna actually put that in the chat as well, so you can see the 3 hashtags, and I'll also put Tessa's shop, her Instagram shop that she has, which is Shop Studio Jane, so you guys can check out some of her awesome handmade goods.
Yes, definitely. And share what colors you pick, or what you guys made your frames out of. If you used a different material besides cardboard or yarn, definitely love to see all the creative things you come up with. Okay, so just adding a couple more tassels here. So again, as we go to the top, we're just eliminating 1 tassel from every row to make it skinnier and skinnier. And this one, I decided just to make it a fun rainbow of different colors, but you can do it any color combination you want. So now you can see we've got basically a little tree shape out of tassels. So you can stop here if you want to. If you feel like you've made the tree that you wanted to make out of tassels, then you can be done, or you can definitely add some more details to it. So I have all these fun little beads and pom-poms or sequins, and these are all from my Kid Made Modern Arts and Crafts library. So again, you can cut shapes out of felt or little fuzzy metallic sticks. Any of those you can do to make your tree festive. So I'm going to add some little sequins. I'm going to take a little bit of glue on the back of a sequin and then just stick it right on top. So again, you can use the glue dots, or any white craft glue will work. If you are using craft glue, it might take a little longer to dry. So once you place it, just leave it for a couple of seconds there so that it can dry and doesn't fall off. But again, you can use any of these fun little embellishments to make it look like a decorated tree. And add another one here.
If they wanted to add a stump to their tree,
Yeah.
I had that in some of the pictures for the classes. What did you use for that?
Yep, I was going to show you that next. So perfect timing, guys. So I have a couple different options you can use. So either a little fuzzy stick, or you can use a popsicle stick. Again, both of these all came out of my Kid Made Modern Arts and Crafts library, but these are items you can get from the craft store, from Michael's, if you might have some of these other things lying around the house. You could also use a piece of cardboard or paper. You can cut a little stump out. But to make like this one here, it has like a little stump at the bottom. It's just a little fuzzy stick that I made, that I folded into a little square. So just taking one end of my fuzzy stick and folding it back to make a little zigzag pattern. So you can see my little zigzag there. And then just kind of squish that together. So fold it all together. And then I'm going to put a little bit of glue at the bottom. I'm going to take that little zigzag and push it right up underneath the bottom. And then I have a little sparkly tree stump at the bottom.
Yeah.
And then we can do the same thing here with to make a little star at the top. So I'm going to take my little fuzzy stick here. I'm just going to bend it over one another. So if you bend it over and across and then back over, and just kind of make a little star shape with it. So you can also cut this into a bunch of little pieces and overlap it. And then by just bending it all together, you'll create little points. And then glue that on at the top.
So cute. Oh, very cute, guys. Thanks so much for joining Tessa and Kid Made Modern for this craft. We have one more remaining for December. Do you want to give them a sneak peek today, Tessa?
Yes, absolutely. We will be making little stocking charms. Oh, can you guys still hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, hang on, sorry. Hey guys, okay, so we're gonna be making these fun little stocking charms next week. And so we're gonna be making little pom-poms. These are gonna be easy to hang on your stocking, as well as little letters for your first name, for your initials. We're gonna wrap those all in yarn, and you guys will be able to hang those on your stockings so Santa knows which ones is yours. They're also cute to put on gift toppers or ornaments. So yes, thanks so much for crafting with us today, and I can't wait to craft with you guys next week.
Awesome. Make sure to check it out on Michael's. And again, it will be posted in 24 hours, our craft today for our tassel trees, if anybody wants to have a catch up as well. Thank you so much, Tessa. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much, you guys. Happy crafting.